Hey everybody, it's me Edward Jones back with a new video, Samuel's Warning. Right now, I'm actually working on my my first table. Well, originally it was supposed to be a bench, or supposed to be a desk. I wanted to build this so to replace the desk that my laptop is sitting on right now. But it's looking more and more like a workbench. Hopefully, I'll get a sander and sand this down. I made this out of pallets, by the way. Uh, these boards are just some scrap wood I found outside the building. But uh, but yeah, it's been you know some wood screws. Just working on some carpentry. I figure Christ was a carpenter, so why not me? Anyway, I've been thinking about something that I read, and I read like I said, I enjoy reading the Bible, and there's a lot of good stories in the Old Testament, especially for those who are prepper minded, preparedness minded, self reliance minded, even gun nuts. um, and one of my favorite books in the Old Testament, and one leads up to the other, pretty very well. In fact, is Judges. And now, if you're not into hearing anything biblical in this video or on my channel, well, I guess you're in for disappointment because that's some things I like to talk about. But in Judges, the book of Judges is like a an up and down for the Israelites. They they were led to their new home with the help of God for first and foremost, and through Moses and Joshua, and they were given various laws and rules and statutes so that they can stay prosperous, so that they can stay plentiful, so that they can grow, so that other nations can know about them and want to follow in their footsteps. But as generations have gone by, they have forgot those lessons. And so if you look through the book of Judges, it goes up and down to where you know they're doing well, they're doing well, and then they start to decline. They start to pick up the bad behavior of the other cultures around them. Idol worship was a big one, and then they figured that they didn't need God anymore. So God said, "All right, you don't need me anymore. I'll leave you up to your own devices." And in doing so, they were punished by being terrorized and enslaved by outside nations because they were surrounded by their enemies. But then they suffered for several years. And the funny thing is each time that they were saved from their enemies, they felt they had a little bit more peace, but then they declined, and then their separation from God lasted longer each time. I always thought that was interesting. I think it was like 8 years, then 10 years, then 18 years, and it just increased as time went by. I guess it's hopefully they learned the lessons, but they didn't. And that's from the Book of Judges where they had various they had like Ehud. He was a left-handed assassin. You had the famous one Samson. Samuel was the last of the judges, and what I like about Samuel was he when his sons acted out in their positions of power, he straightened them out. The Israelites they were concerned that Samuel was getting old, and so they said that his sons are nothing like him, so they want a king like the other nations around them. And Samuel was distraught. Why would you want that? And stay with me. Stay with me. It's this there's a reason behind all this. So he prayed And he spoke, and God told him to tell them. Well, God spoke to Samuel saying, it's not you that they're rejecting; they're rejecting me. Um, by asking for a king. Now there were already limitations placed. They weren't forbidden from having a king. God allowed them to have one, but the king had to follow certain guidelines. But Israelites, their morals were, their heart was not facing Him. So he told God told Samuel to tell the Israelites, what will happen if they have a king. And he said, remember, they're not rejecting you, they're rejecting me by asking for a king. And so Samuel went back to the Israelites and told them, a king will, by asking for a king, he will do various things that we even see nowadays. Um, he will take a portion of your crops, a portion of your vineyards. He will take your sons and daughters and make them work for him. He will raise up armies and make your sons go before his chariots. A chariot during that time was like a fighter jet. It was an advanced piece of war technology, meaning that he will drag your children into wars, um, and put their lives in danger. And he will also, um, take your wealth from you. And they were warned, and they still said, we don't care. We still want a king so that we be mighty like the other nations around us. And that's where King Saul comes in. And you know just follow through the Bible, and you can you read those stories. You read the stories of King Saul, and it's no mystery as to what happened. Why the Israelites, uh, how they got into such worse shape as time went by. Now, what's it got to do with prepping? Our close my door real quick. What we keep in our heart is just as important as what we keep, in our food storage, in our gun lockers, in our libraries. In fact, I would say it's more important than those things because it's what comes before the reasons why we have those things, why we store things up. Um, and I think it's important that we examine what's in our hearts from time to time, so that we don't fall into the same traps that the Israelites fell into, um, during their ebb and flows, during their rise and during their ups and downs. And it's important that we teach generations, after us, what to look out for. I don't think we're gonna get out of this mess that we're in without a lot of fighting, without a lot of things lost, well, along with a lot of good things gained. Um, as you know, like I said, if you follow stories in the Old Testament, the Book of Judges, and the Book of First Samuel, you'll see that, as well as in the Book of Kings, First Kings and Second Kings. By the way, the story of Prophet Elisha is one of my favorites. It'd be cool to see. Well, I guess it'd be cool. I was just gonna say it'd be cool to see as an action film, but because it was a pretty action packed story. But I think Hollywood may try to bastardize it in some way, so I'll leave that alone. But it's important that we examine ourselves, ask ourselves, and this is also kind of, you know just so us to get just to us to look inward. Why do we do the things we do? What are we teaching others, before us? What are we leaving for the next generation? Are we gonna make them want to cling to what is true, which I believe is God, through Christ? Like I said, if you're not into that kind of thing, and this stuff makes you uncomfortable, I'm sorry, but that's what I believe in. Um, Are we gonna teach others and teach the young ones to cling to what is true, or will our own backsliding cause them to fall into an even deeper pit that we're in right now? You know. There's just some, some thoughts I wanted to share. Um, like I said, Samuel's advice, his warning was a very powerful one. Um, I'm curious as to whether whether it's talked about in a lot of churches, especially nowadays. But please share your thoughts. Do you agree with what do you agree with the points I've made? Do you think I'm just rambling? You think do you think this is all nonsense? Do you think prepping's a waste of time, or do you think prepping your heart is just as important, if not more, than practicing your skills with weapons and with food storage and what have you? So please, I'd be interested in hearing what you have to say. Any gripes, complaints, send me a PM. I'll see if I can address them in some form or fashion. But just please keep it civil to everyone else who's watching the video. But that's my video, Samuel's warning. I'm Edward Jones, and thanks for watching.